Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of the How to Make Cinematic Videos series. In today's episode we are going to be going over the BauerCam mod and how to use Optifine to get your shaders looking real nice. Now I would recommend ReplayMod for just about everything, but ReplayMod does not work with mod packs, and if you're on a version of Minecraft that ReplayMod does not support, BauerCam will have to do it. But I believe all the BauerCam versions also have ReplayMod versions, so or use BauerCam if a server has ReplayMod disabled, or if you just want to get a quick camera path and you don't care about recording it real time, because using BauerCam is faster than the replay mod. You can get a lot of clips quickly, but you have to have a good PC to be able to do it, because BauerCam is simply a camera pathing tool and does not render out the clips. So the only way to get footage using the BauerCam is to record your screen using something like OBS or Shadowplay or whatnot. Now in the next episode, I'm going to be going over recording software and a little bit of color correction and grading just to make it look a little bit better, and that will be the end of the series. But this episode, we're going to learn how to use BauerCam and some of the advanced shader settings to make everything look absolutely beautiful. The first half of this video is going to be learning how to use BauerCam. The second half is going to be how to use shaders in the best possible way through Optifine. And remember, anything you learn about shaders in this video can be used with the replay mod, because replay mod does not render in real time, so you can crank all the shader settings and it's all good. But anyway, let's hop into the first part that we're going to cover. We are going to go over a few camera tricks, but some of the features that this mod has, it allows you to set a target and have the camera circle around it. You have, keyframes, of course, but you can save camera paths and load camera paths. You can keyframe your FOV, which is super cool. But yeah, let's just get into it. These are the controls for the BauerCam. P for add path point, U, O, and I for increasing, decreasing, and resetting FOV, K, J, and L for rolling and resetting the roll. I really like this key binding system because U, I, and O, and J, K, and L are right on top of each other, and it's just left, right, or center to reset, and it's a very nice system. So if we hit O, you can see our FOV starts going way up, and on BauerCam, you can increase the FOV way past Minecraft normally would let you. So this is something like, this is 150 FOV. If I sprint, look at that. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't want to make y'all dizzy. This is default FOV, but we can also zoom in by lowering the FOV lower than you possibly could in normal Minecraft. Now we are so zoomed in that the tiniest movement of the mouse sends the camera flying. Now using this low of an FOV is good for getting some of those faraway shots that really look good. Or maybe zoom it out a little and get some depth of field going with shaders. Let's reset that and we'll get to camera roll, which is J, K, and L. If you hit J, camera will tilt to the left, and if you hit L, it will rotate to the right. And you can rotate this as far as you want until you're playing Minecraft sideways. Even though I'm moving my mouse horizontally, it looks like I'm moving it vertically. And sorry if this makes you dizzy as well, but yeah, you can rotate the camera as much as you want, and K to reset. So now that you know all the controls, let's make ourselves a camera path. Let's make something pretty. Let's set the good old FOV to be pretty zoomed in here. Then we'll press P. That'll be our first point. Maybe we'll move underneath the water. Let's not do that. We'll come over, look at the mountain. Press P again. Now I want the zoom to come out, so I'll reset my zoom, but I will do a bit of a camera tilt as it moves back over here. Press P. Camera continues to move back here. I'm gonna tilt the camera the other way, zoom in a bunch, boom. And that will be the camera path. So we've got 4 points. Another thing I like to go over here is that you can go to any point, insert any point, remove any point, and replace any point. So right now, if I didn't like point number 3, I could just up and remove it. Also, you can disable/enable the path preview. It's kind of hard to see the path with shaders on, so let me turn those off real quick. There we go. Now we can see this line super well. This is a great way to easily see your line. Now you can't see the points along the line, but you can see the line itself. Kind of looks like the line gets thicker as it goes, but that's just because it tries to remain two-dimensional. Now if we were to go go to 3, this is the exact point that 3 is. Now we could go here and go /cam replace 3. Now this is the new 3, and the line has changed to reflect that. We could also do cam go to 2, and now we are at the camera point number 2. As you can see, it also adjusts your FOV and tilt based on what the point is. But we could also go cam remove 2, and now point 2 is gone. It has been disintegrated. And because I removed 2, this is now 1, that is now 2, that is now 3. It doesn't just go 1, 3, 4, it changes the name of the point back to the number so that it goes in order. So I can go cam go to 1, cam go to 2, cam go to 3, and they all work. And that's all the points we have. Now, if you want, you can add a point in the middle of the camera path if you want. Because we deleted point 2, we lost a lot of the camera path, but we can get that back with /cam insert. Now, /cam insert inserts a point before the point you give. So if I give it point 2, where I'm standing will become the new point 2, and point 2 will become point 3 will become point 4. So cam insert 2, boom. So now that's 1, that's 2, that's 3, and that's 4. And this is a very wonky camera path. Also, say if I don't like this cam point number 2, I can just fly over here, /cam replace 2, and it will swap its position with the one I'm currently in. And to start this camera path, all we need to do is /cam start, and then however many frames we want it to be. Now this mod uses 60 frames per second, so if we take 60 frames, add a 0, that's 60 times 10, that's 10 seconds. Let's start our camera path. Oh, wow. I spun around a couple times, didn't I? Yep, I didn't keep my orientation straight. Yeah, that was a pretty terrible camera path. It very much keeps track of your rotation. So if you want to make sure you're oriented, just use /cam go to and then make the next point from there instead of just flying to it on your own. Because you never know, if you look this way and then turn back around, that's considered a full rotation. So if you want to add another point, make sure you do cam go to so it fixes your rotation so that it doesn't make it spin around a ton. That's just a pro tip there. If I wanted to save this, I could just go cam, save, bad path, boom. There it is. And I can do /cam clear, and it'll get rid of the camera path completely. But if I want to bring it back, I can just do /cam load bad path, and boom, bad path is back exactly where it was before. So if you're working on an especially large camera path, I recommend saving it every once in a while. Alright, so now that you know basically everything there is to know about camera paths and the BauerCam, you know how to adjust the zoom and the camera tilt and add points, delete points, go to points, and make it so that you don't spin around 1,000 times when you go to adjust the points. So let's get rid of that camera path real quick. Let's say we want to have the camera lock on to a certain position. We could easily do it by having cam target set. And now the camera will be looking on this exact spot where I was standing for the entire camera path. It doesn't matter which way you're looking when you set your path points. It will be looking right there the whole time. For instance, I could look over here, press P, and then look over here and press P, go over here, press P looking that way. But if I start the camera path, as you can see, the cursor is locked onto that one spot, and it's not looking away. But I do like the effect of the camera staring at one spot. It's sort of just like locked in completely, and I think it's an interesting look. And if you remove all points while you still have a target set, it will tell you. To get rid of that target, all you need to do is go cam target off, and then the target's gone. And now the camera path will function as normal and point the way that you're pointing when you set the points. Alright guys, it's time to get to making a radius. Now you should probably use target for this, but I will show you it without target. Let's say you want to make a nice little radius circling this here little mountain thing. Well, what you want to do, stand in the middle of the tower. Preferably, we should dig down into it so that it creates the circle around this exact level. Now all we need to do is do cam circle what the radius we want should be. So this is a radius, not a diameter, so if it's 20, it's going to be 10 blocks away from the middle. So we should probably do something like maybe even 75. That's going to be pretty big, but I think it'll work just fine. And how many times you want it to circle? I want it to circle 3 times, and you want it to circle to the right, to the left. I want it to circle to the right. And now it has created the camera path based on my position, and you will see the camera path right here. Oh yeah, I made it a bit too big. But to make it again, I will need to clear it and then add the new one. Alright, now we've got a good circle. So if we were to do cam start like 400, you can see I'm just looking straight down, and there's not really much going on there. But what we really want to do is set an anchor point. So let's dig down to the middle of the mountain again. So let's do cam target set in the middle of this mountain, build up these blocks, and it'll run for, let's say, 1,000 frames. There it is. So now it's circling the mountain in the way that we wanted it to. And I think it looks pretty good. Now you can go to the individual points of the circle and edit them. So if I was to do /cam replace 5, you can see now point 5 goes way out here and it gets a little bit messy. So let's start that camera path again. Instead, woo! It does that instead, and then it goes back to the good old circle. And if you're in the middle of a path and you want to stop, you do /cam stop, and it will stop whatever you're doing and stop the path right there. Also, if you want to see all these commands on the screen, all you need to do is type /cam, press enter, and it'll load up all of these things so you can get an idea of what you want to type. So I've gone over everything that the BauerCam has to offer. Let's clear that, and attention, you still have a target set, but we will get rid of that. That's not off. There we go. There's one little trick that I want to show you guys. I don't know if any of you have seen the tilt shift effect. Also, I've got some rain on the lens here. This is the latest version of CUDA shaders. I think it looks absolutely great. I'm running a low setting for it right now because I'm trying to record in beautiful 60 frames per second. So they can look much better than this. Here, I'll turn it up to max. Yeah, here we go. Oh, this is looking nice. This is looking real nice. I don't know how many of you know much about camera or camera effects and whatnot, but there's one thing you can do, and it's called the tilt shift. And it's a really cool effect. If you zoom out while moving in, or zoom in while moving out, you get a tilt shift effect, and it looks really cool. It's a really great effect for camera paths. So let's do it, say, on this sheep here. So let's zoom all the way on this sheep from way back here, like so. Now we will reset our FOV, get real close to these sheep, and we will add another point. You can even increase the FOV if you want. Like, you could increase it and get really close to the sheep, but I think going from super zoomed in to normal FOV is good enough. So let's cam start 600 and look at this effect. We're actually moving towards the sheep while it zooms out, and it's just a really cool effect. I didn't really move forward enough there for the full effect, but you can kind of get what I mean. Now that's one way to do the effect, but I think the effect looks better when you start close to the object and then move far away from the object and zoom way in. Good rule of thumb is to try and keep it the same size in the middle of your screen. Like this is about the same starting size as, okay, well maybe not the same starting size. Cam go to 1, go to 2. You know what, let's zoom it in a little bit more. There we go. Now let's watch it. All right, so here's the effect I was looking for. I kept having it rotate a bunch of times, but yeah, this is the effect. You can see the backgrounds kind of scrunches together while the thing in the middle of your screen, I try to keep it roughly the same size during the whole camera path. It kind of accelerates towards the end. But yeah, I think it's a really cool effect. The background seems to close in on you. You've probably seen the effect in movies. And this isn't really the best use of it, but, you know, it kind of demonstrates it. So that's it for the BauerCam. Now let's look into a few of the Optifine settings that will help you along your way, especially when using the replay mod. So when using the replay mod, feel free to up this to 2x because it will make the shadows that much sharper. But when using the BauerCam, just don't bother. Render quality doesn't really need to be upped at all, but if I up the render quality, it gets super laggy, but it looks so good when you up the render quality. Like, it looks so sharp, so perfect. It's like so perfect looking, guys, but unfortunately this is like rendering it at 4K resolution, so it really kills my computer, so I have to keep it on 1x. But if you're using the replay mod, you can render it at 2x, and it works fine because it's the replay mod. It's just going to take a lot longer. One thing you'll want to do is go into Options, Video Settings, Shaders, Shader Options, and on the shaders page, you'll have all your shader packs. I will put the latest CUDA shaders from June. It won't be called CUDA June for you, but I'll put the latest one down in the description below so you can try it out. But anyway, in shaders options, you want to go to the highest setting first. Now, and from there, you can start upping things. If you're using the replay mod, just up everything. Shadow resolution, shadow distance, all the way up to 160. But, you know, some things you don't want to up, like shadow bias, you got to read. If you hold your mouse over it and keep it still for a bit, it will give you a description. A higher value means sharper shadows, but also less detail in the distance. So it's good to keep it balanced. 0.8, you know, what's default seems pretty good. The level of smooth lighting, 0.7 is already maximum, so that's default. Soft shadows, normal map, like this is all good stuff. What you really want is this post-process stuff. Tone mapping, you don't really want to adjust this unless you don't plan to video edit. If you're video editing, you can do all this in video editing. But if I wanted to, I could up the contrast, exposure, and saturation. Maybe not the exposure a whole lot, maybe just a little bit because it's a cloudy scene. But yeah, you can see the colors are a whole lot more vibrant right now. But again, you can do all this in video editing, so it doesn't really matter that you mess around with it in the shader pack. In fact, I'd recommend that you don't mess around with this in the shader pack, because if you do it in your video editor, you can have a much better result, unless you don't really know how to use a video editor, in which case you might just want to do this. But if you're taking a screenshot or something and you're not going to edit it, go ahead and tone map it all the way. Now, chromatic irradiation, however you say that, is when you get some depth of field going. It makes sort of the red and blue around the edges. Look on that cactus. You can see how there's a very faint red and blue on the edge of it. If I was to turn that off, also turning off camera noise can help a bit, but you see now we have no camera noise and there's no red and blue hue there. So without the camera noise, it definitely looks a lot more clear, but it looks a little bit more artificial. The camera noise really gives it more of that realism look. But again, it's up to you. If you're going for that super cinematic film style look, then use the camera noise. But if you're just going for like a montage or whatever and you want it to be as clear as possible, then sure, no camera noise, looks good. But again, guys, you can add camera noise in your video editor with much more precision than in Minecraft shaders. So if you have the skills to do that, then do it, because you can't adjust the rendered file after it's rendered. But if you keep everything down to a pretty default level and edit it afterward in your video editor, you've got a lot of room to work with. It's called non-destructive editing. You want to be as least distracting as possible while still keeping it as pretty as possible. So no tone mapping, no camera noise, that can all be done in the video editor. You don't want to destroy your footage by possibly ruining a scene by having too many of those settings turned up too high. There's some experimental stuff in here. Surface, rain puddles, whatever. Just look through here, experiment with stuff. Water caustics, those are really nice looking. Water refraction, parallax water, all this stuff makes water look beautiful, but you can turn it off if you're trying to save some frames. Palm depth is when you're using resource packs that make the blocks 3D, how much depth they are. Now you can see the rain puddles on the ground. You can turn those off, but I think they look quite good. You can see motion blur. I like to turn up motion blur higher than default, especially with the replay mod. I really like motion blur. Now depth of field, I love depth of field. HQ focus, that should be on. Blur factor, I like to turn this up a little bit sometimes, but also focus speed. A slow focus speed I think looks really good. I really wish it could go up to like 4F, but blur factor, usually 1.0 is pretty good, but if you're looking at something more far away, maybe turn that up a bit. Underwater blur on unless you're doing like some sort of camera path underwater. And now that I've turned up the depth of field, if I look at this, everything in the background is a whole lot more blurry than it was before. And you can still see the raindrops on my screen. You can get rid of those too. Shaking camera, raindrops on screen, shaking hand, jitter, we can turn all those off, and it doesn't really affect how it looks, but you could even add the rain droplets on the screen effect in editing if you wanted to. Just get an overlay for that. If we go to the environment tab, you can see weather, air density. Now this one's really cool. You can turn that up to 2.0, 3.0, and it gives a really cool look. Now, moon phases, totally turn that on. Dynamic weather, cloud cover, you can make it so that there's more cloud cover. We turn all this on, you can see that it'll get more foggy. Now, right now it's more foggy than it was, and you can start to see some rays shining through there with the sun. See those rays? The rays with the shader pack look absolutely stunning, I think. Under environment, under light, there's also torchlight brightness, VL strength, the VL render distance, which you'll want to turn up if you're using replay mod anyway. Turning up all this stuff will cause you to lose frames, so if you are using the BauerCam mod, you might just want to keep everything on a lower setting and just deal with it, because you have to record it in real time. You can't render it out like the replay mod. Torchlight brightness, I like to turn this up because I like to see some bright torches. Now, the torchlight brightness only affects indoors and nighttime. During the daytime, torches don't make any light. Minimum light, I do like minimum light on. Otherwise, the nights and caves will be pitch black. Torchlight radius, that's also sort of goes hand in hand with brightness. High radius and a high brightness will make it look like the torch is just super bright. Volumetric light is what makes those rays and whatnot. So we can actually turn up the quality on that and even turn up the strength. And if we hit done, you can see that it looks even more foggy than it did before, but the rays of the sun have increased like crazy. So now we've got this crazy rays effect. There's a lot more fog in the air. If we were to duck behind this tree, there's just going to be tons of rays behind it. I think it looks pretty fantastic having the volumetric light with lots of rays. Of course, you can't see very far. Like this sandstone hill is already super foggy. You got to get close to it, then you can see it again, but I think it's very much worth it. Bloom, lens flare, dirty lens. I like dirty lens and bloom. I like both of those effects. But again, guys, just experiment, try out all these different settings, see which ones you like the best and will suit your cinematic video the best. Personally, I think CUDA shaders are the best shaders. There's a lot of good shaders like Seuss, but in my opinion, CUDA shaders have just always been the best. They just They look the best, but that's just my opinion. You may like some other shaders. You want to make some replays with them. I totally get it. But look at the sheep, guys. Look how good he looks with CUDA shaders. He looks so good. Look at him. With the depth of field on crazy high, and we've got the light rays going in the background. It's so pretty. Also, guys, one more quick thing that I would like to add is when using Optifine, you can actually take screenshots in up to 8K resolution, or 4 times your resolution, but I assume most of you are going to be on 1080p. So you can take a screenshot from 1080p all the way up to 4K, even up to 8K. So if I was to press F2 here, you see it freezes, but that's because it's trying to create a 4K image. Now, to do this, video settings, other, and then screenshot size, you can set that all the way up to 4x. But your GPU does require frame buffer support. It's not compatible with fast render and anti-aliasing, so don't use that. So you have to have a pretty modern GPU. And also, in the shaders menu, don't use anti-aliasing, turn that off, and just turn up the render quality a bit. Render quality is basically just a way better version of anti-aliasing at the cost of taking way longer. So let's try, oh, this is so laggy, and take a screenshot of this sheep with this stuff applied. This is going to take a while. We are very frozen right now. Oh, it crashed, guys. I broke it. I killed it. Oh, wow. That sheep's face, though. Yeah, I killed it. I tried a bit too hard. I wouldn't recommend that. I think I ran out of VRAM. I pushed it a bit too far. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, I guess let's go to the outro. But to recap, in this episode, I showed you guys how to use the BauerCam mod in its entirety, and also how to use some of the Optifine shader settings just to give your video that extra punch with these volumetric lights, depth of field, and also the tilt shift effect, which is such a cool effect and I love using it, but unfortunately you can't keyframe the FOV with replay mod. I hope that feature will be added soon. But anyway, guys, in the next episode, we are going to be going over how to record your screen to get the best cinematic videos using OBS and your graphics card to record. Using Shadowplay is the most efficient way, but if you don't have a high-end graphics card for Shadowplay or AMD's Relive, then OBS is going to be your best bet. We're also going to go over using video editing software to make your videos pop that much more. And we're going to be doing that in Movie Studio Platinum, which is basically the same thing as Sony Vegas. And if you've used either of those, then you're well on your way. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this episode. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.